And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry.
Bill Maher seems to have made it his full-time mission to dismantle woke arguments, and his latest target is none other than Whoopi Goldberg. Let's be honest, she kind of set herself up for it with a growing list of cringeworthy remarks since 2022. Maher didn't just criticize her, he systematically tore her down, piece by piece, delivering a takedown so fierce it had Whoopi metaphorically diving for cover like a cartoon character dodging a falling anvil. So, what did Goldberg say this time to spark Maher's unfiltered wrath, and how did his brutal comeback leave the woke crowd in chaos? Don't worry, we've got all the juicy details. Buckle up, this isn't just a rough ride, it's a roller coaster with no seat belts.
Get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speed.
Whoopi Goldberg has jumped into the fray, and let's just say, graceful it is not. After Bill Maher shredded Sunny Hostin in our last video for twisting his words, the View crew clearly isn't taking that defeat quietly. This time, it's Whoopi stepping up, seemingly on a mission to settle the score. It looks like Sunny couldn't handle the heat Maher brought, so she called him back up, none other than Whoopi herself. And make no mistake, she didn't show up quietly, she came in swinging like a contestant on a reality show no one signed up for.
Black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Classic Whoopi Goldberg, flipping through the woke playbook like it's gospel. When her arguments start sinking faster than the Titanic, she builds a straw man and goes on the offensive. Bill Maher was clearly pointing out that black Americans are fighting for better jobs, a stronger economy, and accountable policing. Pretty straightforward, right? But then Whoopi jumps in, rambling about backing a former prosecutor with working class initiatives. Makes sense? Not even close. Follow the logic? Of course not, because there isn't any. It's like she's tossing darts blindfolded, hoping something sticks. Spoiler, it doesn't. And Bill Maher, he wasn't about to let that slide. This time, he held nothing back.
Tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
He pointed out that Whoopi's arguments seem to lack basic coherence, a recurring theme on The View, which has basically devolved into the political talk show equivalent of a slow-motion train wreck, painful to watch, yet impossible to look away from. Sure, the show's known for its divisive, and let's be real, often questionable, takes on nearly everything. But Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg have managed to crank the chaos up several notches with their downright outrageous commentary. Remember when Charlemagne Tha God made a guest appearance? You could practically see him wondering if he'd stumbled into some bizarre alternate reality.
The criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused.
Here's the scoop. President Joe Biden, who often declares that no one is above the law, just pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, after a not-so-shocking conviction on corruption and related charges. Family values at their finest, right? Naturally, the move sparked a firestorm of criticism. How can you champion the rule of law while giving your own son a clean slate? It's as if Lady Justice suddenly turned a blind eye, just because the name is Biden. Hunter's guilt was about as subtle as a toddler caught red-handed with cookie crumbs, yet accountability took a backseat on the family agenda. That's where Charlemagne Tha God stepped in. If the woke crowd wants to preach that no one's above the law, they'd better live by that mantra. Seems simple enough, right? Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg. She had a very different spin.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed his mind.
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a sudden?
No, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else.
And there it is, another facepalm moment from the queen of cringe herself, Whoopi Goldberg. This time, she boldly claimed that President Biden wasn't lying when he said, "No one is above the law." Seriously, Whoopi? Because there's a mountain of evidence, videos, audio clips, and maybe even some ancient cave drawings, showing he literally said those exact words. Yet somehow, she expects us to believe this isn't a contradiction. It's mental gymnastics at Olympic level.
That there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law. Not even the President of the United States.
Watching Whoopi try to spin a blatant falsehood is like listening to someone insist the sky isn't blue, while standing under a cloudless afternoon sky. At this point, her mental gymnastics could qualify for the Olympics, though let's be honest, she'd probably trip over her own logic during the warm-up. You could literally see the disbelief on Charlemagne's face as she spoke. But Whoopi wasn't done. She actually floated the idea that maybe President Biden changed his stance because he was tired of everyone else getting away with things. Charlemagne, left speechless, completely blindsided by the sheer audacity of her argument.
I'm just gonna follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground.
The problem with the so-called woke mob is their selective outrage. They're quick to spotlight wrongdoing, but only when the offender isn't part of their carefully protected inner circle. When it is one of their own, suddenly, the outrage vanishes, replaced by awkward defenses or a convenient bout of selective amnesia. As expected, Whoopi and her crew managed to skirt real accountability during Charlemagne's appearance. But when Bill Maher caught wind of their latest spin job, he basically said, "Hold my beer," and unleashed one of the sharpest verbal takedowns we've seen in a long time.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to both.
Maher couldn't have said it better himself. The so-called woke mob loves to parade around as the ultimate arbiters of truth and morality, but their double standards are now plain for all to see. Take Hunter Biden, for example, guilty as charged, no grey area there. Yet because his father sits in the Oval Office, Hunter walks away without so much as a slap on the wrist. If it were anyone else, the mob would be screaming for blood, demanding justice on a silver platter. But when it's one of their own, suddenly, justice takes a backseat to favoritism, that it's hypocrisy at its peak, and Maher was absolutely right to call it out for the sham it truly is, a complete farce. The real question now is, how much longer will Americans tolerate this double dealing? This isn't just about Hunter, it's about a system that bends over backward for the powerful, while hammering everyone else with the full weight of the law. Maher's takedown wasn't just timely, it was a wake-up call for anyone still clinging to the illusion of fairness. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Maher also pointed out that the woke mob doesn't act alone. They're often propped up by mainstream media, which amplifies their narrative while conveniently ignoring the contradictions.
Bury the Hunter Biden.
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course, you don't follow this.
Saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
The media bent over backward to downplay the Hunter Biden scandal, pulling every trick in the book to shield President Biden and derail Trump's re-election campaign. Major outlets dismissed the story as mere Russian disinformation, despite mounting evidence to the contrary, all while actively silencing dissenting voices. Whoopi Goldberg eagerly joined the chorus on The View, brushing off the allegations without a second thought. But Maher wasn't about to let that slide. He called her out, not just for ignoring the facts, but for playing defense when she should have been pursuing the truth. One by one, he dismantled her excuses, exposing the glaring hypocrisy for everyone to see.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life. And when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Maher hit the nail on the head. The ladies of The View, especially Whoopi Goldberg, aren't just woke. They're like a pack of relentless sharks, circling anyone who dares to challenge their ideological mold. Their version of debate isn't about meaningful dialogue or uncovering truth. It's about silencing opposition and enforcing their worldview with smug smirks and cutting snark. Whoopi, in particular, has perfected the art of dismissing dissent with a wave of the hand, as if alternative viewpoints aren't even worth acknowledging. But Maher wasn't intimidated. He faced them head-on, exposing what they're really doing, Bullying disguised as activism, it's no surprise has become a thorn in their side, consistently calling out their hypocrisy for an audience that's tired of the same old biased narratives. Maher's takedowns are like a breath of fresh air in a room filled with stale, recycled talking points.
Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. But a poll last year asked if America is the greatest country in the world. More blacks and Hispanic Americans agreed with that than the white progressives. It asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. It asked if government should increase border security. Same result. Hispanic Americans are less okay with illegal immigration than white.
Maher made it clear, the woke mob needs to stop clutching their pearls over Trump's victory and start facing reality. He didn't steal the election, cheat to win it, or pull it out of thin air. He won it fair and square because millions of Americans connected with his message, no matter how much it enraged the progressive left. Instead of endlessly pointing fingers at Russia, racism, or whatever the latest scapegoat is trending on Twitter, maybe it's time to accept a hard truth. Democracy means sometimes your side loses. That's not a glitch. It's the system doing exactly what it's designed to do. The sooner they stop playing the victim and start focusing on actual strategy, the better shot they'll have in 2028, or even 2032.
There's a coalition of Trump voters, people who really like him, they certainly are those, and then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common.
Bill Maher nails it again. Not everyone who voted for Trump is out hosting mega rallies in their backyard or bowing down to golden statues. Many held their noses and voted for him simply because they were fed up with the Democrats' preachy sermons and the woke mob's growing contempt for basic common sense. Voters didn't back Trump for his tweets or his famously overcooked tan. They did it because the alternative felt like being trapped at a barbecue with a self-righteous vegan lecturing everyone on morality. If the left wants to win again, they need to stop alienating the middle by embracing every fringe idea from the activist playbook and start focusing on what actually connects with everyday Americans.
Saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
It's pure comedy gold. Bill Maher didn't just drive the final nail into Whoopi Goldberg's coffin. He practically built the whole thing himself, laughing all the way through at the absurdity of it all. Whoopi, self-appointed high priestess of the woke movement, made the mistake of challenging Maher for the crime of thinking independently. Big miscalculation. Maher's response. Classic. Incisive, unfiltered, and laced with that razor-sharp wit is known for. He zeroed in on the irony. Whoopi, co-host of The View, a show that claims to champion diverse opinions, criticizing him for having one she doesn't like. You see the contradiction, right? A group that preaches tolerance can't seem to stomach any viewpoint outside their own bubble. But Maher wasn't letting it slide. He tore through the hypocrisy of the woke echo chamber that Whoopi and her crew thrive in, a place where critical thinking is smothered by tribal loyalty and dissent is treated like blasphemy. Watching Maher dismantle their paper-thin arguments was like watching Picasso at work, only instead of a paintbrush, he used sarcasm and unrelenting logic.